I'd like to introduce my little leprechaun, Linda. How are you?
Good morning, Bill. I'm great. Thanks. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. A little bit chillier out there today.
It's a little cold. Suddenly, just like that.
Yes.
Bang, we're cold.
Ah.
I'm wearing my thermals again.
Oh, exactly. So it's probably a good time now to start feeding your lawn.
Yeah, it's always good to give the lawn a light feed at this time of year. In Ireland, we usually use, in winter time, potash-rich ones because potash doesn't put on a lot of green growth. But I've noticed here in Australia, you just use your ordinary lawn fertiliser, regardless of what time of the year. I guess down here we don't get terrible frost. Maybe in Canberra and other places where they get quite intense frost, but not here. And so I just like to use Mums, I have to say. Can I just put that in?
Yep.
They're Australian brand, an Australian family. Met them, Mrs. Munn, years ago through Bunnings. And they're what they use in the MCG. So anything that's good enough for the MCG is good enough for us, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So is there, do you fertilise differently for different types of grass?
Yes. I think I liked what you showed me last night. So, you were talking about the little Zoya.
Yeah.
And that's a great grass, actually. I'm thinking about putting it in some little areas where grass isn't taken on, and that's a little tiny Japanese grass. And that hardly needs fertilising or mowing, which is a good idea for a lot of people. That's a very low fertiliser requirement.
Yeah.
Whereas the likes of kikuya, even though it can grow so vigorously, really does well with a reasonably regular. If you fertilise that about 2 or 3 times a year, it works very well. So Walter, you just do it about twice a year, and you use the Sir Walter fertiliser, specific fertiliser. It's because the blades are very wide and the fertiliser sits on it, which is really the only difference. From between, it's just that it can really affect the grass because the blades are so long and sit on it. Of course, everything should be watered in. Whenever you fertilise, water it in. I only ever do it, like literally I'm nearly in the rain when I go out there like a lunatic scattering. But I've used quite cheap high nitrogen, just greening ones too, because I have a very mixed lawn, and I have mixed fescue. I think there's definitely some bent, which is kind of a very nice soft one, and I think that would have been put in back in the 70s, I reckon, and that was kind of when we had water apparently, and because it likes a lot of watering. Whereas now I have a lot of kikuya and cooch, which are more water resistant and need less watering.
Yeah,
I don't
more hardy.
water my lawn, but I find that with reasonably regular mowing, quite high, and giving it a fertilizer at least twice in the year. I just use that cheaper variety, so you have to do it more often.
Yep.
A good one to use is sea salt lawns.
Oh, right.
If you're concerned about, maybe you might have a mixture of Sir Walter Buffalo White, and you have other ones too, and they're creeping summer ones. They're very, it's not too nitrogen rich, and it's not too burning, so I find it's very good, even for new lawns. When you put down your first, lots of people now are using slabs of Sir Walter.
Yep.
But so the first fertilising you use on that, I suggest using sea salt, only just because it's so safe.
And spray it on with the hose?
Yeah, you just, how you get it in those little packs that are pre-mixed, so you just put your hose in, and away you go. Now, that isn't for a big lawn. A gentleman came in to me the other day, and he had 3 acres.
Oh.
I went, whoa.
Where's the helicopter?
He was right on one, and he said, yeah, like, he I don't know where he was from, I think up in Seville or somewhere, and he came into us because we're in Bayswater, so he wanted to buy seed, so I suggested he initially was using specialised seeds, and one high in fescue. Now, fescue is great in wintertime. It's really good and germinates through the winter, and it's the one that just pops up singly. But whereas the hot, warm, running summer grasses are the ones that get run, the one you run. So you know how kikuya will run up a wall nearly.
Yep.
That's the really strong, sturdy stuff. And kikuya can be very invasive. and has those long fingers that run into your garden beds. There's one variety we sell. It's called Emerald Kikuyu, and that one doesn't run as vigorously.
Pretty hardy.
And it's really bright green. It's very, very attractive. But all Kikuyu grasses, not that it matters now, you wouldn't go sowing the seed now, are slow to germinate. So they usually come along with an annual ryegrass. So when you see grass pop up from seed, especially Kikuyu, it's not actually Kikuyu.
Oh, right.
It germinates very slowly. And most lawns, except fescue, wouldn't germinate very quickly. So when the gentleman asked me for what to broadcast over he just inherited this three, I think he said 3 acres of grass. I said, well, I'd probably go purchase. I didn't like to say that out loud, really, in Bunnings, but really I would probably buy my seed online and broadcast it, but do it maybe more in spring and just maybe focus on the lower areas now.
Yeah, where it gets warmer.
Yeah, regularly. Trimming it, not too high, not too low, but high, on high blades. And if you like it, use some selective weed killer. Selective weed killer is great, but if you have animals, and he has, it's not a great one to use.
Yeah.
So then it is a bit manual. If you have a small enough area, I would say around the house, with the gentleman, I said, for getting rid of his big broad leaves in the soil, just using a handful of sulfate of ammonia, that will poison it with nitrogen.
Yeah. So is it's a
bad way to go.
Is it good to mow your lawn before you fertilise it?
Well, I don't tend to. No, I tend to leave that for about. I tend to fertilise it for after about 2 weeks after I cut it. Well, during the hot summer, I cut it every 2 weeks anyway. But so I definitely leave it a while. You don't want to throw down fertilizers on top of. I don't know. It's just my instinct goes not right on top of blades that have just been cut. You know, you don't mess too much with anything that's been pruned, even your own hair. Sorry, couldn't resist.
Well, talking about cutting, this is a good time to cut back your asparagus.
Good time to cut back your asparagus, especially if it's relatively new. You know, you shouldn't harvest asparagus for the first 3 years, even though it's irresistible. You just let it go wild and just sway in the wind, and it does look gorgeous. But that encourages the plant to really get robust and strong. But just once you have about 3 years, then you can start to see the spears emerging out of the ground. And then it's okay to cut them before they go into beautiful big plumes. But asparagus is a very pretty plant in the garden. I've planted in every garden I've gone into.
Oh, right.
And I've never been long enough in a place to harvest it. Except, ironically, in this last house, I put purple asparagus in a huge pot. It was lovely and lovely colour, but it wasn't the right thing. So, gardeners are forever learning.
And do you have to put any additives into the soil when you do cut them?
I don't tend to. I just use it like a basic. I tend to be a basic fertilizer person. Just a nice liquid. I do use watered down dynamic lifter. I told you before, pounding up some dynamic lifter and put it in a watering or a milk carton. And then I use a little slosh of that in my watering can and use it quite regularly. So I encourage it to grow. But I haven't tended to use, when you cut it right down and you're not expecting new growth, then I don't tend to fertilise it again. When you get it, it looks like a bowl of dried spaghetti, big noodles kind of almost.
That's the roots.
The tuber that you plant. And so you're supposed to soak it overnight. One time I soaked it for nearly a month by accident. I forgot about it. Forget about it. I found it in a bucket. I often used to find things in buckets that I'd forgotten about. But, much to my husband's delight. Anyway, but soak it overnight so you swell up the tubers before you put them into the ground, and you bury it quite deep.
Do you split them?
No, I never split them. I used just to pop them down. No, you'd buy it in the bag, so you might get 2 tubers dried, and we sell it around the same time as we sell potatoes. Oh, sorry, there's you can hear the
Don't get run over.
driving by. I'm at work.
Don't get run over.
No, I won't. He's hopped off for a coffee now. We're safe. But in talking about pruning, my garden was shocked by that spell of drought we had.
Yep.
Like really shocked. So the erigeron, the seaside daisy, I had quite a tall hedge of that. So yeah, that is looking very burnt.
So you cut it back?
There's life in it.
Yeah.
I'll have to cut it down now. Yeah, I've left it till, well, we had a death in the family, so I was going to do it this last few weeks because the moon was perfect for trimming. But anyway, I'll do it coming soon now. But yeah, a lot of pruning in the garden. So a lot of death and despair, actually.
With the seaside daisy, do you have to cut back each year to freshen it up?
Well, I've done both, actually. I've done cut it back to keep it nice and neat at the border. That's when I was in different gardens, and trying to keep it nice and tidy. And it's quite hard to decide when to do it because it flowers on. But in my own garden, my little seaside daisy hedge was nearly, about nearly 700 high.
Wow.
That's because I missed it one year. I missed the prune of it. To tell you the truth, you know how I prune it? It went because it's a big hedge with a lawnmower, raised, kind of. I'm raising it. I'm on its edge because I don't have a hedger anymore. But going at it with the hedger is really good. But it came back from the lawnmower. It wasn't like I didn't leave it on the ground. I just kind of tilted it sideways and sort of used it as a hedging. Yeah. Don't do that, actually. I'm sorry I said that.
You did a wheel stand and did a drive-by.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But I do trim it right close into the hedge because it's against a wire federation, fence, so it can get quite out of hand. Did great though, but the summer, the really bad drought we had for 6 or 7 weeks,
yep.
It just polished it off. I thought, oh God, is it going to come back? But no, it's coming back life again.
Beautiful.
Once the rain came again.
Well, you've given me an idea what to do at home now.
Yeah. A little bit of
I'd use the hedge trimmer.
Yeah, I think you'd use the hedge trimmer. Yeah, use the hedge trimmer.
Yep.
I've used it for pruning for a lot of things. Do you know in Kew Garden, that's what they used a chainsaw to prune their roses one year to see the effect.
Wow.
And they said it was grand, which I questioned. But who am I to question Kew Gardens in London? You know, that's Kew Gardens in London.
Well, one of my dad's bosses used to have a beautiful rose garden, and he did the same thing. He said, I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they did. Just used it. And you think about how carefully we all prune and spend ages of time and, making sure we're getting the right cut. And, I could spend an hour nearly on the rose if it was particularly tangled and wanted to get it nice. But I still think in the long term it should be much better to open up a rose in the centre, give it a nice air. I don't think you'll be going at it with a chainsaw every year. I don't think that would be... it's not the way I'm going to go anyway. I am going to go with more roses. They're still looking great. And climbing roses were great. They all coped with the drought. They were so good. And grasses and carex. I had great success with carex, which brings me to the point of some of your perennials in the garden. I have a lovely aster that is doing really well, actually. And did great all through the different times through the summer. Spots flowered. So I thought, I might divide that one up. And I'm going to definitely divide up my carex. It's called the, is it Emerald Falls? I think it's called Emerald Falls. No, something Falls. Feather Falls, that's it. And that's fantastic. So I've decided I'm going to do more grasses in different areas because some of the perennials just didn't do well. But then I have a Gaillardia that did great.
Oh, yeah?
And, it did really well. And I'm definitely going to divide that one up a little bit. So you just dig around the perennial, just any perennial that comes every year. So just dig around there. After 2 or 3 years, they really do improve with the freshening up and being moved a little bit. So dig on the outside, about, I don't know, I usually leave kind of the width of my hand, which is probably about 10, 20 centimetres out.
Yep.
Dig around there. So I'm not getting rid of too many of the feeding roots, not damaging it too much. And then divide up the clump if it's that big, and the Carex will be, because it looks so lush during the summer. And then they said to use a sharp spade, but I don't have the strength in my legs to do that, so I use a serrated knife and just really cut up the plant into about 2 or 3 pieces. It's not, well, I don't know how the clump of the Carex will go, but and then you just replant that. Prepare the soil well, a little bit of well-rotted compost if you have it, or just using a bag of broken down compost that you buy here. And there's some quite good value, relatively cheap bags that are just as good as the more expensive ones. And just a few handfuls of that mixed in with the existing soil, make it a big hole. I find that's you give a plant much better look into the future with it. The bigger the hole that they go into, that's wider.
You put water in first?
And water first, yeah. Water first. In this country, whenever you can, water. After the summer, I felt so bad because I don't water my garden, so it's really sad.
I've heard of no-dig gardens, but I've never heard of no-water gardens.
I know, but I'm trying to have a cottage garden you don't water. Anyway, it was tricky. It's been tricky, but the salvias, the roses, grasses are doing great.
And what about the insects and
the
diseases?
Well, the insects look very happy because, except for the little white caterpillars.
Yep.
They were very, very happy. The white butterflies, you know how we had that swarm of them? Was that 2 talks ago? Well, they have emerged, and there was a lot of caterpillars. There was a lot of caterpillars. There was a lot of squishing.
Yeah, exactly.
But they seem to have gone away. Yeah, my basil is still hanging in there.
Good.
I know, it's quite amazing. But I haven't planted any brassicas.
Because the caterpillars love them.
They love them, absolutely. So,
all right. We've run out of time.
Gosh, sorry, I talked and talked. You didn't get a word in.
No, that's all right, because you've got the knowledge, I've got the radio. All right. And if talk about treat the garden for pests and diseases, and go down to your local what would you call it, nursery, and if you're in doubt about what to use, talk to them, and go down and talk to Linda. You might find her in some stores somewhere around Melbourne. So
sure. You're very welcome.
Thanks very much, Linda, and we'll catch up with you in a month's time, and it will be really cold.
It will. It's getting colder. Anyway.
All right, take care.
God bless.
And we'll catch up in a month's time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.